Welcome to The Explainer. You know, when a political campaign just completely tanks, the first question everyone asks is always the same. Whose fault was it? Today, we're diving into a documentary that tried to answer that very question for Germany's Green Party after a really crushing defeat.
This number, right here, it kind of says it all. 11.6%. In the 2025 federal election, Germany's Green Party went from dreaming of the chancellorship to this. A massive, staggering disappointment. Talk about a reality check.
And you can almost feel the exact moment that reality check hit. We got 12? That was the completely stunned reaction from the party's lead candidate, Robert Habeck, and it was all captured on film. It's a moment that just perfectly sets the stage for the political autopsy that was about to begin.
So naturally, the post-mortem starts. And that's where this new documentary comes in. It's called Jetzt Wohin, which means now, where to? And it promises a peek behind the scenes. But there's a pretty big twist. The director, Lars Jessen, is actually a close friend of the candidate.
Now, you really have to understand, this filmmaker, Lars Jessen, he wasn't just some fly on the wall. Not at all. The article we're looking at describes him as more of a helper than a documentarian. He even started a pro-Habeck social media network called Green Kitchen during the campaign. So yeah, that context, it's pretty crucial.
And this quote from the director himself really tells you everything you need to know about the film's point of view. So right off the bat, we know this isn't going to be some hard-hitting, objective investigation. It's a story told from the inside, from the perspective of supporters who were genuinely asking themselves, how could the good guys possibly have lost?
Okay, so if the film is starting from the idea that, hey, it wasn't our fault, then whose fault was it? Well, you can probably guess what comes next. The documentary starts lining up the usual suspects, a whole cast of external villains who supposedly sabotage the whole thing. And oh boy, is it a long list. It's like a who's who of potential culprits. The film points the finger everywhere. At the media for its negative framing, at political opponents, at these shadowy corporate and fossil fuel interests. Heck, even at Elon Musk's algorithms and specific TV talk show hosts. It's the classic external blame game.
So, Exhibit A in the film's case against the world is this huge controversy over a climate policy that got nicknamed the heating law. The film doesn't frame the backlash as a genuine public reaction, but as a totally coordinated and unparalleled campaign of disinformation. And this is where it gets really interesting, because the film tries to connect all these dots. It lays out this whole complicated web, like follow the money, right? It starts with a major newspaper, which is owned by this big investment firm, KKR. Then it links KKR's fossil fuel money to political donations to another party, the FDP, and then on to a think tank. The whole implication is that there was this grand conspiracy. But, and this is a huge but, the film's whole narrative about these powerful outside forces starts to wobble. And you know who makes it wobble? The candidate himself, Robert Habeck. Let's take the debate on migration, for instance. The film's experts are all blaming the media for pushing this link between migration and security. But then you hear from Habeck, and he just cuts right through all that noise. He admits that attacks by migrants totally dominated the campaign. His own words are so direct. The theme of the campaign was migration and security. It's this moment of just stark realism that really pushes back against the film's main story. And you see it again here, this incredible moment of self-awareness, or maybe self-doubt. He's openly wondering if the excitement he felt on the campaign trail was actually real, or if it was just a bubble perception inside his own green milieu. He's basically asking, out loud, are all these cheering crowds I see for real, or am I just talking to people who already agree with me?
So, what's really going on here? If the big external conspiracy theory doesn't quite hold up, and the candidate himself seems to think it's way more complicated, what was the real reason they lost? Where does this investigation actually lead us? Well, near the end, the film throws a total curveball. It offers up one final, pretty shocking theory. And it doesn't come from some political analyst or campaign manager. Nope, it comes from an unlikely source, a musician named Jan Gorkov who goes by Manchi.
And his take is just absolutely brutal. He says Robert Habeck could have done whatever he wanted. People deeply hate the Greens. Wow. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. His point is that none of the policy details or media campaigns mattered. The problem was something way more fundamental, a deep-seated animosity. So the director, Jessen, is clearly taken aback by this, and he asks the one question we're all thinking. Why? Why on earth would people feel that way?
And this is the gut punch answer Gorko gives. He says that for many, many voters, the Greens are seen as the spearhead of the moral apostles. That's the core of it. The idea that the party doesn't just feel like a political option, but more like a preachy, morally superior group that's always looking down on everyone else. And that points to this critical, maybe even painful lesson. It's something that's even echoed by the famous climate activist Louisa Neubauer in the film. Just believing you're on the right side of history, that you're the good guys, is not a winning political strategy. Not even close. Politics is about connecting with people, not just having convictions. So in the end, after all this searching for a villain, the film doesn't really solve the case. It doesn't give us a tidy conclusion with a single culprit. Instead, it leaves us with this lingering and honestly much more powerful thought about how politics actually works.
And that brings us right here to this final, really provocative question. In politics, is this whole frantic search for someone to blame just a distraction? Does it actually stop us from confronting the much more difficult, uncomfortable truths about why a campaign really fails?